Hello, welcome to Underlord's Universe, where we talk about a lot of stuff that we find interesting. In this case, it's Black Sabbath. And we're not just talking about like any just one particular era of Black Sabbath. It's the entire Black Sabbath catalog. We like to chit chat about stuff that inspires us. And so if you find this video interesting at all, please subscribe, ring that little bell, and just take a quick moment to note that we've just recently released an original song. It's a 7.5 minute epic featuring a guest vocalist by the name of Blaze Bailey, former Iron Maiden vocalist. We'll put the link down below. Please check it out. But that's not
You should check it out. Let me know how it is. I'm a terrible friend. I still
you,
haven't listened to it.
you still haven't listened. Darn it. That's all right
Sorry.
though.
But I haven't listened to 10,000 volts yet either.
Well,
So
there's that. I'll tell you what though. Brent down below and I are involved in the creation of this new song along with our other colleagues. The computer god over here today, he's on the other side of the state of Iowa, and he's our kind of resident Black Sabbath expert and fellow Sabbath aficionado, and he's been joining us over the last few episodes on Black Sabbath, going through. We chunked the Sabbath catalog into three big chunks and discussed and rated them based on a system. We kind of have this idea that everybody rates albums kind of based on your preconceived notions and just kind of almost arbitrarily saying, well, I like this album more than that album. And by and large, we're probably right with our preconceptions, but we apply a system to just kind of test our preconceived notions. And we do that by giving each song on the albums up to 5 points. And then we divide by the total number of songs for an average and divide by the total number of points possible for a percent. And then we kind of find out like, oh, did I really like this album as much as that album, et cetera, et cetera. So today what we're doing is we're doing a kind of an aggregate, our overall ratings of the Black Sabbath catalogs, the whole shebang, not in chunks. And these two guys sent me their numbers, so I know what their data shows, and I averaged all of it together. So we have like our individual lists, and then we have our master aggregate list. And I know that's what we're all kind of surprised at or interested in checking out. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I suppose we can just get right to it. There are what, 20? Are there 20 of these albums?
20. There's 20.
There's 20 because we're also including The Devil You Know in the list, which is by Heaven and Hell, which is the Dio era Sabbath in all but name, right? So
Right.
Okay, so 20 albums. Now, I do want to say, before we get into this, if I may, in my list, there were three chunks of ties. Okay. In fact, the very first, the two bottom albums for me tied with the exact percent, exact points. So my 20 and my 19 are actually tied, and my 17 and 16 are actually tied as well.
Wow.
Then when we get to numbers 5, 4, and 3, those are all tied. So, I kind of just had to kind of go with, well, which of these albums am I actually more inclined to grab? That's how I kind of approached the tiebreaker. Did you guys have any ties in your lists?
I had 3. 9 and 8 were tied. 6 and 5 were tied, and 2 and 1 were tied.
Oh, 2 and 1. Wow.
So what I do, my first tiebreaker is which album has the most 5-star songs. And so, and then if that's not that, then I just kind of go down. But yeah, I was able to break those ties, but I had 3 of them.
Okay. Travis, did you have any ties?
I did have some ties, and I can't. I think I had another typo on the list that you didn't catch, Brian.
Oh. Well, what is it?
Well, my number, I'm terrible at math, just so you know, and I also did this in a hurry based off of my notes.
All right. Well, tell me what you got. We'll see.
My number, and then I printed off the email and it cut off the side, so I can't tell what it is my number 14 and 15.
Yeah. Okay.
I have the percentages as a tie, but I have one a little bit higher on the decimal system.
Okay.
Did you go?
No, I use the decimals. You should be fine.
Okay, but
Yeah.
I don't know if I made a typo and it was supposed to be a tie.
Oh, well, you know what? It's
Both albums are kind of a
They're-
little on the underwhelming side, so it doesn't matter. You
well,
know.
and it's very if yeah. Let me.
Wait,
I would add. I wouldn't worry about it. I don't think it's going to be a factor here in this. I do want to point out the irony of you being labeled here as the computer god, but yet you have a printer that won't print off accurately. That's pretty.
oh, dude, this is I was struggling to log on. I am not. I like this song a lot, but as far as technology, I've got a surround system I've never got set up because I can't figure it out. I don't. No, yeah. There's a reason why I have thousands of CDs and I try not to. I don't do streaming services. It's
Mhm.
not just because I'm against it. It's because I probably couldn't figure out how to use it anyway.
Well, we can that's maybe a subject for another chat down the road. So okay, as we get into this, because I'm sure there might be that one or that one guy out there that's like, oh, I'll check this out, and it's like 5 minutes in, he's like, dude, get to the list. Here's
You know
the
what?
thing. Like
You can
what?
deal with it.
Yeah,
I
well,
don't know.
exactly. Just deal. So here's the funny thing. I think right off the bat, I don't know about you guys. Well, actually, I do know about you guys, but I'll just speak for myself. My least favorite Black Sabbath album out of the entire Black Sabbath catalog is bound to tick somebody off.
Me too.
It's bound
Oh.
to somebody's going to say, "Oh, these guys are complete idiots," and then they're gonna not watch the rest of the video.
Well, then my prediction was wrong because I thought we were all going to have the same last place one.
Yeah.
But I was like, there is a chance their last place might be the one that I'm thinking.
Well, are we ready to kind of start in?
One
Sure.
thing I want to add before we start,
Yeah.
a 33.5% difference between my number 20 and my number one.
Wow. That's pretty. There's a
And
gap.
might I just say, there's also a little bit of, it's kind of interesting. I kind of, between the three of us, Brian, I think you were the harshest as far as the rating system went. Brent, I think you were the most generous. I think you had several albums with lots of 5 stars. I think I was the moderate. How's that?
Maybe
I'm
you
the
were.
moderate.
Let's see.
Although
see.
what really kind of matters, I guess, in that regard is, do you have some sort of internal level of consistency? And as long as that's the
Right.
case, then it's all fine. Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
But I had a 25-point discrepancy, or 27-point between my last place and my first place.
Well,
So
I in terms of, I don't have my I had just have my percents here. I don't have but mine is a 32-point spread.
They're all pretty big.
Yep, they're pretty big. So okay, are we ready for? So this would be 19, right? And the night, or no, excuse me, in the 20th,
20.
the number 20 spot, the top 20,
Yep.
the top 20 Black Sabbath albums out of all 20.
Yep.
Starting at number 20. Here we go. Someone's gonna click off the channel right now. Are you ready?
they already have. It doesn't matter.
Right.
Wow. Okay. All right.
Wow. So
Right answer, Brian.
Okay. Say
You
what,
got it
Brent?
right. You got it right. You picked the right one.
Okay.
Well, I thought we were all going to have 7-star. I
Nope.
thought we had the same opinion that it's like not a bad album, but it's just not very Sabbathy. There's not any real
sure.
standouts.
But to that point, and we won't necessarily need to talk about every single one here, but this isn't to say that there's just because I put volume 4 into the last spot doesn't mean that I find it absolutely completely awful,
Right.
unredeeming.
Yeah.
There's something about every Sabbath album I like, some more than others.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So this is my least favorite Sabbath album, at least according to the data. So all right, that's number
something had to come in last. So
yep. So 20, 19.
Ah. Well, This is weird though, because we did not talk about this much. I think the one
Huh.
thing you said, you're like, yeah, I don't know, Volume 4 is going to rate very high for me. And I'm like, dude, me neither. It's like kind of, you guys are wrong about Forbidden, but like, we're
All right.
on the similar path
Oh,
here.
we'll
You're,
see.
well,
All right. In the 18 spot, number 18. For me, it's 13.
Okay.
All right.
I thought this would be worse, but it is where it is.
And that's where kind of bias. Like I know we're not going to stop and talk about each one, but if you would have asked me what's the least, I would have said, okay, 7-star probably, but also Forbidden because of the things we talked about. Poor recording, vocals, not as inspired, and this and that. But according to the system you designed, it's like, well, I do enjoy the songs more. I don't think it is very representative of Sabbath, but
Yeah, right.
okay.
There's another one that's going to irritate a lot of people.
All right. So we're at the number 17 spot, correct?
Yep.
Never Say Die. Ooh.
Paranoid.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Were you, is that disapproving of me?
Well, I knew because I knew your numbers, but I'm just
Well, I mean,
All right.
yeah, same sort. Okay. Well, here we go. Let's see.
16
number 16
is 13.
7-star.
I'm shocked.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a shocker. I wanted 13 to be 13, but I couldn't make that happen.
Yeah, you can't fudge these things like that. That would be dishonest.
No, that would be dishonest. I'm an honest person. Where are we now? At 15?
We are at number 15.
All right.
All right.
This is where I
Spot.
screwed up with the rating. This should be a tie actually with 14, but this is the lower one based on the tiebreaker for me.
All right.
Okay.
15.
You ready, Brian?
My apologies.
15. For me, it's Headless Cross.
What? Okay. I do love this album cover though.
The lenticular thing.
Right.
And yeah, so
This is really interesting. There's no real similar trend so far between any of us, which is kind of cool.
no. Except that 7-star and Volume 4 were close to the bottom.
Yep.
Okay.
And we are
14.
Number 14. The number 14 spot.
Dang, I thought you were kinder to the Tony Martin era, Brian. But
it's what's funny here is that there's not a lot of similarity in our rankings here at all.
not at all.
Not at all. Okay.
So anyway,
13?
Yeah, so this is in the number 13 spot. Here, this is also going to upset some viewers. My number 13 is the debut.
Mine's Cheer.
Wow.
there we go.
And
I did not take the suggestion of going by Rock and Roll Doctor because that song sucks.
No, it doesn't.
and
by the way, the debut at 13, that's not too bad.
Well, but the thing is, it's like, okay, so this is like the album that created heavy metal, and I don't doubt that, and it's a great record. I don't detract, I don't pull anything away from it. It's just where things ended up when I rated it.
Right.
So,
and you still like the record, so.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
This next one for me is one that surprised me that it was this low.
Okay.
I'll just say that. This is number 12.
Well, in the number 12 spot for me is Paranoid.
Devil You Know.
Wow. Okay.
I thought this would be top 10 for sure.
Well, I will say with Devil You Know, if I could go back, I probably would have rated it a little bit lower than I did, but
to that point, I won't mention, but it rated higher than expected for me, but yeah. So the number 11 for me, Technical Ecstasy.
Debut.
Wow. We are.
And Travis, yours Forbidden really rated a lot higher than a lot of people would expect.
But now this is a 4-star album.
Sure.
Everything from now on for me is 4 stars. Everything. So this is a 4-star
okay.
album.
And that's in my Forbidden is 3.6. So I'm still I don't actually, well, for me, it doesn't until the top 4 that I get to 4 stars.
Oh, really?
So, yeah.
Well, now we're in the top 10. Now
number 10?
Now the metal hits the road. Yep, number 10.
So the top 10 Black Sabbath albums for our individual lists. Number 10 for me is Tear.
Born Again. Love this record.
Okay.
Greatest album cover of all time. I don't know if I mentioned it before. There's a bucket list to go there.
Excuse me, but you have seen Uriah Heep's High and Mighty or Innocent Victim. Come on.
Innocent Victim.
Abominog, or I don't even know. Did I say that? Yeah.
No, Innocent Victim and High and Mighty. Those are my 2 favorite Heep. Anyway, we're not here talking about Heep. Okay, we are now in the number 9 Black Sabbath spot, right? Number 9. Born Again.
Okay. Wow.
And this tied with my number 8, but it lost the tiebreaker. So
number 8 for me is the Heaven and Hell, Devil You Know.
Rules.
Heaven and Hell, but
interesting.
The other Heaven and Hell.
Yeah, right. Number 7 for me is Master Reality.
Oh yeah, Brian, look at
that. I think, Brent, this is the first time that of the 3 of us we've had a similar ranking.
I think it is.
I thought Master Reality would have ranked higher for you because we were all kind of like talking about how, yeah, this is a nearly flawless album, if I remember correctly. So, okay.
Yeah.
Or I will say this. Between number 9 and number 1, there's only 5% that separates them. So these are all really close for me.
Yeah. And there's also issues of like, whether an album is like really consistently, really, really good, or an album has peaks and valleys that, kind of average out. So
yeah, 1 or 2 clunkers can really sink in a record.
So this is number 6.
I just realized I got a 3-way tie, so these are tiebreakers at this point.
Fine. Number 6, is that right? Number 6?
Yep.
Cross Purposes.
Headless Cross.
Wow.
So we all got Tony Martin albums at number 6.
Yep.
Yeah. So this just edged out Sabotage Sabbath with the tiebreaker of more higher rated songs.
Wow.
So now we're in the top 5. This is the rarefied air right here.
Yep.
Top 5.
Top 5. In the 5 spot for me,
Sabotage. Look at that.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I thought this would come in higher, but Brian, I guess you and I think alike.
Isn't it interesting, Brent? This is like two times now we've had the same rating, but you have Eternal Idol, okay?
Which I thought would have been number 3. I mean, this is my top 3 Sabbath albums. This one did not make. I mean, it just barely, because it was, tied with Tear and Sabbath 47. But anyway,
So now we're hitting the number 4.
And this one for me was a very big surprise.
All right. Well, for me, 4 and 3 are tied, and I can go either way with them early. I'm just kind of keeping it consistent with what I had in the previous episode for this purpose. But the number 4 Sabbath album for me is Heaven and Hell.
Got Cross Purposes.
Wow. I didn't think this would rank as high as it did. I think because, my bias is the production is so 80s.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
But when it comes down to it, the songs are there, and it just barely edged out Eternal Idol by 0.6%.
Wow.
Or 0.06%.
See, some of these things we get into splitting hairs here, but you know what? That's what this system's all about.
Well, we get paid the big
number 3, the top 3 Sabbath albums. Mob
Okay.
Okay.
Wow. This would have been number 1, but Am I Going Insane killed it.
Yeah, that can happen.
That'll do it.
We're doing the average, so
that'll do it.
Number 2. The number 2 spot for me, Sabbath Bloody Sabbath.
And again, this was tied with my number 1, but it lost the tiebreaker.
Did it?
Yeah, it did.
I'm surprised this one is so high. I think I just, you know, it got to a point where I listened to it so much. I'm just like, yeah, I heard it, and I'm listening to it, and I'm going, oh, I remember why I listened
Yeah,
to this so
why
much.
you're right. Number one, numero uno, Dehumanizer.
There you go.
Uh,
Attaboy.
And Brent, I mean, you can't sneeze at that. That was my number two. So
yeah, and for me, this is 1.5 points ahead of Dehumanizer. So it's
yeah,
really,
So
really close
what was your percentage for that one then, Brent?
for Sabbath Bloody Sabbath.
Yeah.
87.5%.
mm.
Okay. I was at 84 for Dehumanizer.
My that
Yes.
was mine, 84. My
I was at
wow.
80,
yeah.
I was at 80, I was at 86 for Dehumanizer.
Wow. So wow. This okay. So lot of you know variations in the way we see some of these albums. That's kind of the fun here. Tell you what, here's the deal. I got to reorganize this stack for
Okay.
our aggregate average list. Travis, you're always good at kind of riffing on some of this stuff. Why don't you just give me a moment here to kind of do this list, and you kind of your thoughts on the totality of the catalog here.
On the totality of that, that's a tall order, my man.
Yeah.
I will just say that, you know, I spent a lot of this time kind of wondering about where bias should play into it. You know, I think an
Yeah.
album cover itself, the overall feel, you know, the production, there's a bias to that, which is why I thought Eternal Idol would have been higher for me. And then Headless Cross edges it out, even though I'm not really a fan of the production. Because if you're just going by the songs, you know, I think in general, I was surprised to go back and love the Ozzy era stuff as much. I definitely saw myself predicting that the latter Ozzy albums would have done better than they did as far as like technical ecstasy and Never Say Die, because I'm really into the songwriting. You go back and you listen to something like Sweet Leaf, it's one riff sort of over and over,
Yeah,
but the
that's
feeling you
true.
get, just that rawness of the original band, and to see the journey go from this the sort of going from the polka talk blues band
Yeah.
to Earth, and then finding their footing with Black Sabbath, but not completely finding it, because you know the debut album had some kind of down points as well, up into just the brilliant songwriting of the last 3 or 4 Ozzy era albums, the more a little more mainstream stuff, and then of course when they were the least mainstream at all, it's like if in a just world, I think, you know, Tony Martin and that era would have got more radio play because the melodies, it just they're there and everything. And then the low point of Forbidden, I don't know. You set me up for failure. You said I'm good at sort of rambling, and at this point I don't know what I'm saying. All I know is Black Sabbath will forever be the greatest band in history based on the genre of music they created, the way they were able to progress, and the one consistent thing through it all was the genius of Tony Iommi. So I will say this, I don't want to offend the commenter. I read one comment or whatever on one of the other ones, and he
Mhm.
says, anything without Bill Ward sucks, I think was his comment. And I'm just going, and I think he said something like, the rest of that's not even Black Sabbath. And I'm going, nah, if it's got Tony Iommi, it's Black Sabbath. At this point, that's the trademark sound. And sure, Ozzy has a trademark voice. Dio does. Tony Martin even. Bill Ward definitely has trademark drumming that I think he sort of stopped. His trademark just sort of kind of disappeared at a point.
Yeah. You, the thing about there's so many bands, of course, did you say it's not Van Halen without this, it's not Yes without that, it's not Black Sabbath without Ozzy or whatever, and it's like, well, okay, I mean, that's fine. I mean, to each their own.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
look at it more like, well, if you don't like any of the Sabbath without Ozzy, for example, then you're a fan of the original Sabbath or that certain era of Sabbath. You're
Yeah.
not a fan of latter Sabbath. But for someone to say, well, that's not really Black Sabbath, it's like, okay, you can say that.
Although I will kind of say,
Fine.
I will kind of eat my words here a little bit and say that, you know, I was kind of generous to 13, but live, I just don't think they had it with Ozzy back. I would listen to that with
Yeah.
the stiffness of Tommy Kluftos or whatever. Ozzy's voice has changed so much. Tony and Geezer, they showed up,
Yeah.
but without the other two elements, without a Dio or a Tony Martin or the groove of Bill Ward, or even, you know, sort of the just like the rock solid with like Vinny Appice, you know, I've listened to those recent live albums on their farewell tour and whatever, and I'm going, nah, which is, I don't know if I'm a hypocrite for that. I was with them up until almost
Well,
the end.
I think, we all kind of define these things in our minds, how we view things, because there's an intangible and emotional connection to, to music. It's an emotive
Yeah.
thing. So that and that's fine. It's perfectly
And that's
cool for people to have different.
and where does bias, come into that? Now that I no longer have that emotion for this lineup, since I've kind of lost respect for Ozzy and stuff, am I really being fair with that?
Yeah.
So I have to ask myself that. But in the end, the end.
Yeah, in the end. Well, the funny thing about the catalog, though, is that, like, they're in averaging these things out, like, because there's three of us here, and there's certain things that, like, are kind of a surprise. But I'll just, without giving anything away, like, for example, there's an album that rated pretty high because two of us rated it pretty high to begin with, and that, that swayed the average between the three of us. There's some albums here, like there's an album that rated really high on average because all of us rated it pretty high. In fact, it's an album that tied another album for me, but the album that it tied with ended up way farther down on the list because you guys rated that other album lower, and so, and it didn't even have to be significantly lower. It just had to be lower enough for other albums to fit in the slots in between. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
so here's the this is the aggregate list, the number 20.
I'm on pins and needles here.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Take a guess. What is the number 20 album?
Volume 4.
Probably volume 4.
It is volume 4. Yeah.
Okay.
Volume 4.
So that wasn't for me, but that was second lowest for me. So it was the lowest for you two, second lowest for me.
Yeah.
That's really gonna upset some people.
Yep, you bet. But you know what? It's like, what's the point of having conversations if you agree on everything? I mean,
yeah, exactly. And it's interesting. That's why, because I love hearing this, and I hate you guys for it, but at the same time, I'm just sort of I'm like, well, that's interesting. They're completely wrong.
Well, yeah, it's like, Brent and I, we obviously have initial different impressions of, the new Ace Frehley album. We do an episode on that later. And that's what makes it fun. I mean, it's like, if you all agreed on everything, it wouldn't be boring.
That's true. But I will say FX, I mean, that kind of tanked it,
Well, I mean, yeah. So it is.
So I mean, going by the system, and I like the system for,
Yeah.
for what it is and whatever, but
yeah,
FX shouldn't have even been on there.
In the number, so that's number 20. 19
Makes sense.
Star. 18 Forbidden.
Yeah. You guys tanked that one. That should have been higher.
17. This is where people if they're still with us, this is where they go, screw these guys. They don't know what they're talking about. All right. So this is what number 17, right? Paranoid.
I figured that was it.
I think that's where I had it. Yeah, I had it at 17.
And I even had it a little higher than that, but I mean, it's, that one definitely was played out. How I just said, Master of Reality. And then there you go.
And 16. So, I mean, just the mere fact that this slightly outranked Paranoid is kind of funny.
Well, But how, by how much? Do you have the numbers
I
there?
don't have those numbers right there with me.
Well,
I just made the
for
list.
me, for me, it was 2.5 points difference, and I had him in those same spots. So it's probably somewhere in that area.
And the number
That's
15, Technical Ecstasy.
man, this is following like all mine so far. Very exactly.
14, Never Say Die.
Oh, yeah. I had those two tied. They should have ranked higher, but they got some stinkers on them for sure.
13, Born Again.
Hmm.
I had that one a lot lower, you know, but
12, the debut.
yeah, okay. Not too far lower than mine.
Number 11, Tear.
Okay.
10, Eternal Idol.
Ouch. Now that one hurts. That one hurts.
Number 9, Headless Cross.
That I get that my guess would have been lower if I didn't
Yeah.
so
Number 8 was Mob Rules.
yeah, I'm surprised I had Mob Rules really low. I mean, it's a great album, but
And 7, The Devil You Know. And that just floors me. Like I wouldn't think that this would outrank Mob Rules, and it didn't in my list, but
Neither. Neither.
but Travis, like you put all three of the numbers in there, it
Yeah.
tilts it,
Well,
right?
it's the way. That's why you do this.
6, Cross Purposes, and that's where Brent, like you and I, elevated this one because
Yep.
Travis had it lower.
I had it at number 18. Wow.
And the top 5 of our aggregate list: Master of Reality.
Okay.
You can't argue with that.
4, Sabotage.
Am I going insane? Ruined it.
3, Heaven and Hell. 2,
Okay.
kind of, there we go, Sabotage
Yep.
Sabbath. And number 1,
I knew what the number one was going to be. There you go.
Dehumanizer. Wow.
And
Wow,
that's a
folks.
bit of a surprise, you know. And I think one of the cool things is that we have Ozzy, Dio, and Tony Martin albums throughout the whole. It's not like, oh, we like the Dio albums best, we like the Ozzy albums, and then they're all sprinkled in. It's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And that actually is cool. It's like there's albums from all of the different eras that rank high and others that don't. So yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Interesting.
but who would have thought Dehumanizer would be number one? I wouldn't. I wouldn't have.
Only in my own personal list did I think that it would rate high enough that it could be number 1. I thought it was possible. I was surprised that the average for all three of us came out with Dehumanizer at number 1.
I could have seen Dehumanizer as a top 5 record, and I had it third. But yeah, and you can't argue with it. I mean, that album is phenomenal. That album is phenomenal.
And it's not too incredibly diverse of an album,
No.
which for Black Sabbath actually helps it, you know?
Yeah.
I think with Black Sabbath, one of the reasons why we all rated it so high is I think the reason why we like Black Sabbath is we like the heaviness, we like the intensity, you know. The definitely the lyrics in this case, it's mostly Dio as opposed to Geezer, but they're always great, thoughtful lyrics. And it didn't, the whole album was kind of like one big risk in a way, but at the same time, they didn't really take any risks. They basically said, we want to make the most brutal album. I mean, yeah, they got the Too Late is a little of a lower tempo one,
Yeah.
but they didn't go for like a slower bluesy number. They didn't go for a Lonely Is the Word or,
Nope.
Feels Good to Me. I mean, this is all of the best of Sabbath, and they didn't even get a Sign of Southern Cross or Heaven and Hell in there, and yet they still just were filled with just amazing, memorable riffs. I think it easily belongs at the top. And if you don't like that crunchy heaviness, okay, you're not going to rate it as high. But
right, yeah, I think Dehumanizer just consistently from start to finish just has like you say, just amazing riff after amazing riff. And like you said, you mentioned Too Late. I mean, even the chorus of that song is pummeling, you know.
Oh
It's
yeah, absolutely.
so, yeah, yeah. Well, you know, guys, I think it's an interesting exercise to do this. I think it's always kind of fun to, you know, to talk to other people who are like-minded fans, in the sense that they, you know, in this case, they like all the different eras, and but we don't necessarily have the same exact opinion about the highs and lows in those eras. So this has been cool. This has been fun. We can also find other Sabbath related topics to keep the Sabbath conversation going. And Travis, I assume that you'll be up for some sort of future Sabbath conversation, right?
Always. Yeah. I mean,
Okay. And
yeah, I don't know.
yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say rating it is very stressful.
Yeah.
I'm down for a conversation. We've
Yeah.
talked about this, the rating system. I'm like going, and automatically I was surprised at how kind of cool and collected I was. And I'm like, all right, I don't
Yeah.
mind that this is a 3.88. But now I'm going back and I'm going, I screwed up. This one I screwed up. That one I screwed up.
Well, you know, I mean, I think Brent and I are more yeah, we're more like willing to jump on the rating system, you know, than you were. But you know, you played ball, and I really appreciate you doing that. And uh you know, for future Sabbath conversations, it doesn't have to be using a rating system per se. When there's all kinds of stuff we can do with it. And you know, you guys come up with an idea, you know, shoot the idea around. We'll float different ideas for Sabbath videos in the future. In the meantime, Travis, there's a 7.5 minute Underlord song featuring the one and only Blaze Bayley on vocals.
I
And
don't like replacement vocalists. You know me. It's Ozzy or nothing. It's Paul Diano or nothing. So no, I'm looking forward to that. And when
yeah,
I first met you, that's one of the, you know, kind of cool things that about you where I was like, oh yeah, he's not just like, no, I only like the original Kiss, you know,
mhm,
I only like whatever. It's just like, yeah, dude, there's so much music out there. And if there is one element in the band, like I can't even think of the name of the Iron Maiden guitarist. I'm not a huge Iron Maiden fan, but if Blaze was good enough for them, then it's like, okay, give it a chance. And whether you think it's at the top or the bottom
yeah.
or whatever, you can't deny Blaze is an amazing vocalist. I really dig his style. Whether it fit in Iron Maiden, leave it up to anybody else. So when I heard you got Blaze, I was like, wow, I can't wait to listen to that. And here I am. I still have not listened to it.
Hey, you know
He
what?
he did a great job.
You're a dad, okay? You've got
Yeah.
responsibilities, right? You know, so it's okay. Whenever you get around to it, you know, we'd be honored if you listen to it. So
And I don't like YouTube. So it'll be one thing if I had a CD in front of me. So
yeah, I know. You can
Well,
pull
it's available on Bandcamp.
and
You
you
can
can
go
pull it
listen
up on
to it.
Bandcamp. Yep.
okay.
But the cool thing about the version of it that's on YouTube is I took the art and I did this little effect with it. So if you just stare at it for the whole 7.5 minutes, it's like staring at a lava lamp. You'll be entranced with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty
So,
cool.
yeah,
Pretty
Brent,
cool.
I think it's pretty cool. Yeah.
It is. And Blaze did a really good job with the song. He did a
Mhm.
phenomenal job. And we kind of stretched out musically and did some different things. It's a lot of
Well,
fun.
and the funny thing is, Travis, I'll just leave you with this since we're on the subject. And if anybody's watching, then if they're still with us, thank you very much. But the original song, Brent and Josh wrote it back in 1995 when Blaze was in Iron Maiden.
Oh wow.
And then we rearranged it. Andy took the riff and he said, well, what if we did this with it and did it on piano? And then it was like, oh, and I said, well, what if we took the intro from the original and moved it like 2.5 minutes in? And so we started rearranging the whole thing. And then we
Okay.
rewrote the lyric and everything. So the whole thing completely changed. And now the whole song kind of relates to a secret society called the Ordo Abstrusis Oculus, which Josh under his pen name H. Prescott Lemon writes novels about. So there's like levels of meaning to the whole thing. It's just been fun to do, and it was great to be able to get someone like Blaze to be on it, and he was awesome.
And you've met him a number of times, haven't you?
Just once.
Oh, just once. Okay.
Yeah.
He seems like a really cool guy.
He is.
He
really
did like a meet and greet after his show in Chicago, and you didn't have to pay for it. It was just, I'll be out after the show if you stick around. You know, he doesn't believe in having people meet and greet. So
But we met him before. We got to the venue early, and we talked with him even before.
Was it? I don't remember that. Was it? Did we? Oh, we did. I forgot.
Yep.
We saw him before and after.
And after. Yeah.
Just like what happens when you go see Anvil.
Hey, I will say, meeting Rob Reiner, I've met 2 Rob Reiners in my life, actually.
That's amazing.
And both were incredibly cool meetings. When you think about, now we're way off topic, but Rob Reiner, he's just eating his food. And I was like, hey man, I'm sorry. I got him to autograph my Anvil DVD, Anvil, the story of Anvil. He's like, oh, no problem, man. He put it down. I was like, I'm really sorry to bother you. He's like, no, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
And he was in like mid bites, and I had to get going because I lived out of town and everything. And it was just like, and I'm like, the fact that he's there, he's an amazing, underrated drummer.
No, he is.
He's the son of a Holocaust survivor, for God's sake. And I don't know, it's just, and then I also met the guy that directed Princess Bride, and he signed my Princess Bride DVD. So Rob Reiner, if there's any other Rob Reiners I should meet, leave a comment below.
Right. Correct. And yeah, at any rate, we'd love it if you checked out our song that I'll post below as well. It'll be in the little description below. It'll also be in the comments. If you think that we're out of our minds when it comes to Black Sabbath, that'd be great fun if people, posted some criticisms or I don't know, maybe we got some of this right, whatever. But we like to have fun with this, and if you subscribe, like it, join in, that'd be great. I got nothing else, guys. I'm ready to hit it and to say sayonara. Are you guys good to go?
Good.
No.
All right, until next time, toodles.